Morena koutou, nau mahaere mai ki te runanga o te kaunihira o Rotorua. Good morning everyone and welcome to the Council Chamber. Workshop number 2, Long-Term Plan 27 to 37, Outcomes for Rotorua. I have apologies from Mayor Tapsell this morning, who is away at the funeral for Ken Rarity. We are expecting her hopefully to join by Zoom if she is able to, and I'm also expecting Councillor Wang online. Are there any other apologies, Councillor Temera Bemba?
Just on the Ken's tangihanga I've just received, they've started about an hour late, so she may or may not be able to join at her anticipated time. Yeah, okay. So they're about an hour behind schedule. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. We're in, sorry, Councillor Barker?
And just an apology from Councillor Lee, thank you.
Sorry, yes, Councillor Lee's apologies. Okay, I think we're ready to get underway, so welcome to Sam and to Greg. We're in your hands.
Cool.
My apologies. Councillor Maxwell, would you like to open our workshop with a karakia, please?
E ino I tātou, e te atua whakatūwheretia mai kia mātou ngā kūaha o te tika, o te pono, o te māramatanga I tēnei wā e ngā wā katoa. Ko ihu kraiti hoki tō mātou kai whakaora. Āmene. Kia ora koutou.
Tēnā koe, Councillor Maxwell. Now we're in your hands, Sam and Greg. And I think, did I hear? Morning, Councillor Wang.
Morena. Standing out by the museum rather than coming in. I mean at the Sir Howard Morrison. So today's session, we'll do the best that we can. So ultimately was to be led by the Mayor, but so this workshop's to talk about the outcomes for Rotorua for 2027 to 2037, so as part of the long-term plan. And so where we've got to in this is that there have been some informal meetings between all of you, I understand, to get to some high-level understanding in this workshop is to solidify those before they go to their council meeting, not the next council meeting, the following one, is it the July council meeting, where they get adopted. And so the importance of these if we can go to the next slide, sorry. This is obviously a pitch for some more IT budget in the process, so I don't know if this is working or not, but we'll try our best. So really this is about the direction received from Council into this. If we can go to the next one, please, Timothy. And so really the idea of these is that these form the basis of all the other work that we'll do in the long-term planning process. So as council, the focus is setting these directions for the next 10 years of really the way that we would like our community to look, and then everything that we do from there, we'll try as much as possible to align with those priorities. And so it's important that we set these early in the long-term planning process so that everything that we do can align to those quite nicely. So this is the real opportunity to really have that higher level thinking about, in an ideal world, what would Rotorua look like in 10 years' time. And so up here we've got how does that translate. The priorities then turn into those community outcomes, and then our activity plans flow through from those, and then those activity plans have the performance measures. And so particularly through the activities plans, that's what we're actually doing, and then those performance measures are to, so that we can ensure that we're doing those. Cool. Is there anything you want to add, Greg?
Perhaps I can talk to this one. Sorry, I'll just bring this up. Get that next slide up. Apologies, I can't. So I'm just having to look backwards because I haven't got a screen in front of me. So, councillors, you'll recall that we, as part of our induction, had a session out at the airport. We spent some time looking through what we wanted to achieve during this term, and so we set some key priorities which we then flowed through to our annual plan. Since then, we've had a further session where we've done some thinking ourselves around what are the key themes that we want to bring through or priorities into the long-term plan. And so as part of that, this has been refined into this little document here. So we chose sort of 3 areas that we wanted to concentrate on. So invigorating the economy, and as part of that, what this slide has tried to capture is all of the underlying themes that we want to use to invigorate the economy. So we talked about the vibrancy, the events, the world-class tourism destination, the work that we're going to be doing in the inner city. We also wanted to be more focused on strategic economic development, and we also were talking about supporting events to attract people to Rotorua, also for that vibrancy, and underpinning all of that is just to making sure that we have a vibrant economy and that we have a prosperous Rotorua. I don't know if anyone wants to add any further comments on that, but that was a capture of the workshops that we've had just with councillors during both the induction and previous to starting this long-term plan workshop. The second area was just around delivering major infrastructure projects. We had said that we need to finish what we'd started. There are a number of key infrastructure projects that are already underway, and some key things around that is that we wanted to make sure that they were delivered on time and on budget. And as part of that, we've set up new frameworks for around reporting, an oversight, and making sure that budgets are adhered to, milestones are reported on, and you'll see all of that has been flowing through the Infrastructure Committee reporting. The third thing that we wanted to focus on too was around financial prudence and making sure that we were able to deliver our priorities in an efficient manner. And these are some key themes that we will incorporate flowing through to the long-term plan, which is around a key focus on core services, trying to reduce unnecessary spend, and a key focus on looking for alternative revenue sources. It had been identified through the workshops that we've had that a sole reliance or a key reliance on rates was not going to be sustainable into the future, and it's part of the work that we want to do for this long-term plan. The two little boxes underneath were just how we would underpin all of that work, or overarching philosophy of how we would deliver this work. So around iwi partnerships and treaty obligations, and also with communication and engagement with our community. So is there any other feedback or comments on that? This was something that's been agreed as part of the council workshops, key themes and areas that we want to focus on for the next short while. So I saw a hand over here from Councillor Sanford and Councillor Temera Benfell. So Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Madam Chair. There's probably a couple of points I have on our priorities that we've been working through for this. One of them was around, I think we spoke about this in our last informal meeting around the invigorating the economy, and maybe changing that to invigorating the economy and our community. So there was a community.
Just hang fire. So I'm just talking to what we'd worked on. The staff have come up with in the next slide, so we'll come to that. I think we've captured that feedback. Councillor Temera Benfell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a question of clarification. So, are we asking for this particular one, because I'm mindful of what's coming up on the next slide with the LTP stuff? Are you asking for feedback around changing that for the annual plan, or is it just more?
No, I'm just setting out the background as to how we've got to where we're going to get to on the next slide.
Yeah, so. Nice. Okay, yeah, because I think my feedback and questions is probably more suited to the next slide. Yeah.
Okay, Councillor Barker. Okay, so now what I'll do is I'll hand back to the staff. So what we have done is, or what the staff done, is taken those priorities that were captured through workshops that the councils have done, and also the priorities that were included in our current annual plan, which has been adopted, and then how they'll flow through into the next part of this process. So I'll hand back to Greg and Sam.
Yeah, thank you for that. And so as part of that, I'll use the royal we, have taken that and developed alongside the Mayor and Deputy Mayor and others these LTP outcomes. And so it's loosely, it is a reflection of those ones that came before, but I think probably the key is if we go through them one by one. So the first one there is the economy and community. So we've got some discussion on that.
Morning, councillors. You having your discussions around your priorities as a council, we were given the 4 bullet points that you see up there. What we've come up with is an outcome statement that incorporates all of those. I think what we're seeking from you today is a consensus of direction for us to go away and develop these further so that we can bring a paper back to the council for actual formal adoption of these. And so if you see that there's anything in there that may be missing, you don't see that it's missing, but you raise that there's something missing within that, now would be a good time to raise that. We can capture that feedback and then incorporate that into what you see as an economy and community outcome for the community.
Okay, so now I can take the question. So I think, Councillor Sanford, I think that covers off your area. We've now captured that as economy and community, and so everything we're doing is around vibrant community, and the work underpins that. Did that cover your question?
I had some more feedback on that, but I can wait if we're giving feedback on this slide until the
Do you want to move to the next slide, Greg, and we can just talk then about this, and then if we just take this one by one, that might be useful. So
sure. So what we've done as a request from the Mayor was for us to show the similarities or statements between the Chamber of Commerce vision and the Rotorua 2050 vision. And so what I've done is I've gone through those two visions and pulled out those that may or may not align to, or that may align to the bullet points that we've highlighted. And this is just to show that there is a comparison or a theme that comes across from the broader district as well around some of these key points.
Skipped over a slide, the previous slide.
Yep.
We'll just go back to outcome 1, the economy and community.
Yep.
Sorry, so these were just some key themes here that had been captured. Greg's just got a little bit ahead of that. We'll come back to that as to where Te Tātou Tiaroa's the Te Aroa 2050 vision and the Chamber of Commerce vision align to some of these. So just checking that these are capturing the comments or direction or priorities that councils had discussed around the economy and the community. So now they've been wrapped into this together.
I would question why they have been wrapped in together. I mean, the economy is one thing, but certainly community is something quite different. Well, I see it as quite different. I see it as being well connected into the community, healthy families, making their contribution, living well, good housing, all of that sort of thing. And I think I see that as separate from the economy. Not that they're not both intertwined, because they are. One's growing the economy, but the other is growing the people of our community. And I think that one is a real hard one as well, the community. And I don't know whether lumping them together gives equal weighting to the community.
Can we just go back to the previous slide? I just wondered, in our discussion, we tried to capture that with a vibrant, diverse economy and community, and then we were trying to put that whole quality of life, live, work, play around there.
Yeah.
To capture the economy and the community?
Well, I think they're both pieces of work that are they're significant in their own right. And I think one doesn't necessarily influence, as it should, part of our community that needs real focus and real attention. Well, that's just my thinking at this stage.
Okay, well, we'll just capture comments at this
Yes,
stage.
thank you.
Councillor Temera Benfeld, did you still have a question?
I'm just trying to figure out where my comment is best fitted, because it may very well be at the end, actually, because my comment is actually with regards to the whole structure of that LTP outcomes right there, that one that we're seeing there. So is it best now to bring that up now, or I can happy to go through the slides and wait for that at the end?
Maybe if it's to do with all of the content, we'll just take these one by one, these areas one by one, and then we'll...
Yeah, it's not so much to do with all of it, but it will change the what it looks like, I suppose, is the question. So it might be just one by one, and then I can give comments at the end. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Councillor Barker, you had a question?
No, thank you. I was just agreeing. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have some questions on this one, and I do apologise that I wasn't able to make the brainstorm session, so I might be getting the wrong end of the stick. But you touched on events earlier in your kōrero, and yet I don't see that listed anywhere in any of these three outcomes, which I think if we agree that that's an important part of building our economy, then perhaps that should be included somewhere. And then my other questions were, how are we going to determine whether economic diversification is actually occurring? You know, we can have these wonderful outcomes, but how are we going to determine that? And then my third question would be, will Rotorua NZ's performance be measured against this outcome?
Greg, do you want to attempt to answer those last two questions?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I think the first question around how will we track whether we're actually contributing towards this. Councillor, if we went back a few slides, there was the councillor priorities, community outcomes, and then activity plans and performance measures. These fundamentally form the starting point of that golden thread that flows through the LTP. And so every proposal that we bring forward to you, or anything that you will see going forward, we would have to align back to these community outcomes. So what a community outcome is really difficult to do is measure its baseline and its starting point. So that may be, on some of them, really, really difficult to measure. But what we would be able to measure is, are we contributing towards those? And we actually have to the improvement of those, or towards whatever community outcome you have. And so we would actually have to align those through our activity planning. We'd have to actually say this activity plan aligns to this community outcome. So we actually have to outline that from an audit perspective. Sorry, if you can just refresh me on the second question.
So the second question relates to Rotorua NZ being measured against that?
Right, so look, the Rotorua NZ goes through its own SOI process, and so through that process, aligning how you want our CCOs to operate would go through that SOR process that we normally go through, and you can align what your expectations are through that process.
Thank you.
Councillor Brown?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Could we go to the slide with the boxes? Just picking up on Councillor Rakawateit is picking up on. I don't know. Would you be okay if I suggest a wordsmith of this?
Well, I don't want to spend today wordsmithing. I think we're just going to capture some general feedback. It always gets difficult when you try to wordsmith with a group of people. I
agree. I would then just say quality of life, live, work, play, invest. Invest needs to come out of there, and I would suggest attractive for investment as a separate heading.
I can capture that as some feedback. Councillor Barker, did you have another comment?
Oh no, it's really just an observation that these three categories are high level, and it's an attempt to be really clear that at a strategic level, things that fall out of this, so we don't need to itemise every single thing that's important. That discussion will come further when we come to setting the activities and things. So I just think, I'd like to keep it higher level as possible, and making sure that we capture the things that everyone think are important, but not get down too far into the detail of it. That's just my observation.
No, that's probably a good observation, Councillor Barker. Councillor Temera Benfeld?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just with where we're at, I actually thought I'm just going to provide my feedback now while we're discussing it. When I was looking at these slides earlier in the week, I was sort of gauging myself on would I be happy to present this to my community as it was like that. The answer was no, and the reason that is because I suppose with economy and community, infrastructure and environment, and financial sustainability is that we are tracking them against the outcomes that are listed below them. I think with the iwi partnerships and, that new wording there, iwi partnerships and honouring the Treaty of Waitangi principles underpin the way that we work, there's actually no way for us to hold accountability to that because it's actually not accompanied by outcomes. And I think also with the way that we work anyway, we're obligated through a whole number of mechanisms to do that anyway, regardless if it's in or out of the LTP outcomes. And so what that got me thinking about is conversations that we've had as a ward, but also conversations that I've had with some of our other councillors around the table around what's really important. And so I suppose for me, it would have to be, or would potentially look like, economy and community as a header with its things, infrastructure and environment as a header with its outcomes, financial sustainability as a header with its outcomes, and iwi partnership and honouring Treaty of Waitangi principles as a header with its outcomes. And I do have some outcomes to recommend that I've run across with the Mayor as well. But I think underpinning that, and why I brought up conversations I've had with Councillor Barker and actually all of our councillors actually, is around our desire to have greater and better communications with our whole community. And I think for me, that's probably actually what can underpin all of this work, because that way we've got our iwi partnerships and honouring the Treaty of Waitangi principles with outcomes that we can actually help hold staff accountable to, but also with engagement and communication with our community as it's written in the original priorities, I think is actually probably more of an underpinning factor, because I suppose that is an all-encompassing thing for the whole community. In terms of outcomes, I've actually already, with the outcomes we've discussed it, and in terms of the iwi partnerships and treaty obligation stuff, the outcomes are already outlined through documents like Te Tuamaka and Te Aroa Vision, so we're not actually reinventing anything, it's actually holding us accountable to what we're already saying we're going to do. So I do have a diagram, which I'm happy to share with staff, but that's my initial thought on the feedback of what's going on here, because it just sounds a bit airy-fairy, to be honest, just to have iwi partnerships as an underpinning thing and actually not holding ourselves accountable to any outcomes for that. And I think anyway, because we receive all of our documents and we all do our checks with mana whenua as a part of our process anyway, it's how do we actually hold ourselves accountable? Because for me, there's actually nothing to help hold ourselves accountable with the way that it is structured there. So yeah, and it's also how do we bring our wider community on board through our communications and through our engagements, whilst also acknowledging different statutory obligations for PSGs and iwi. So that's my initial feedback on that, the actual structure of those outcomes.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other comments, Councillor Sanford?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. My feedback on the economy and community one is on world-class destination. I'd also love us to add world-class place to live. I don't just want us to be Disneyland. We are a place where people live. And then on strategic economic development, and I would also add in there strategic community development. I don't know, you could add that in on the same line, or those would be my pieces of feedback on the first.
Okay. Move on to the next one. sorry, Greg, I've probably got you a little bit out of order in terms of this presentation. Do you want to then just talk to how these ones align to the other?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as I said earlier, what we've done is taken the bullet points that were in the community outcomes slide before and pulled out quotes from the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotorua 2050 Vision Committee with their page references, so you could go back and have a look at that, and just to show which of those bullet points align to the other visions that are out there for our community at the moment. And yeah, I'm happy to take any comments on this.
This is more just for your information at this stage. It's a piece of work that the staff have done together with Her Worship, just to show that we're trying to capture feedback from other key partners along similar kinds of themes where there is alignment. Okay, we'll move on to the second outcome area.
I'll take this one as well. Thank you, Sam. So the second outcome area was infrastructure and environment, and the 2 bullet points that we received from you are the deliver infrastructure projects on budget and on time, and continued protection and enhancement of the environment. We've also, once again, got the statement there for you to have a look at. I'm happy to take any questions or comments on this one.
I think this one was fairly self-explanatory. I don't know if there are any comments anyone wants to make on this. Councillor Patterson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Again, something that struck me as being specifically missing was rural infrastructure. They've certainly got the short end of the stick for many years now. How are we going to reflect that and ensure they get their equity out of this?
Through you, Madam Chair, if that's okay, I can answer that.
I can see Councillor Barker's also.
Okay, so that's Councillor. That's probably a discussion for later on in the piece. Once we get to how you actually build up your LTP. At this stage, this is kept quite broad. So whether it's rural or urban infrastructure still fits within that infrastructure outcome. You will have further discussions later on as to what isn't included in your LTP. Where probably that is probably the timing for that.
Thank you, that's clear. Then the other one, again, about measurements. How will our environmental protection be measured?
Councillor, that's a really interesting comment or question at this time of the piece. At this stage, we've got signals from central government that our measurements for certain activities will probably be given to us, where we will then have an opportunity to add to those. That with the intention of that being that they would like to compare councils similarly across the whole country. So where councils are looking at that specific measure, it's likely going to be the same across the whole country. What that is right now, we don't have it at this stage. And so I don't have an answer for you about that, as we haven't got to that piece of work yet.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Barker, you had a comment?
Oh, thank you. Just in reply to Councillor Patterson's query around the rural infrastructure, and just walking back to the previous slide where we compared the Chamber of Commerce vision and the Rotorua 2050 vision, the Rural Board also has prepared a strategy document that I've shared with councillors, but could share again, which actually outlines the priorities for the rural community as well, with respect to particularly infrastructure, but also other things too. So that's another sort of document that could be used as reference when going into the long-term plan as well. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillor Sanford.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you. My feedback on this one would be the maybe possibility of adding a line along the lines of continued investment and upgrade of infrastructure, as we do sort of for the environment there. Just noting that the only bit where we talk about infrastructure is delivering projects, but we don't actually talk about the fact that we need to maintain and upgrade.
Okay, Councillor Timura Bebenfeld.
Can I just ask, the question, I suppose I'm just sitting here thinking, what is the basis of us in terms of the economic and community comparison? What is the basis of us using the Chamber of Commerce as the basis of the economic conditions? Like, what do we have an MOU with the Chamber of Commerce where they, or what is the basis of actually using them? Because I would think we would need to think probably more about using RNZ rather than the Chamber of Commerce. So yeah, what was because I know why we use the Te Aroha 2050 vision, because we've got a relationship and partnership agreement with the organisation that's created that. But the Chamber of Commerce vision, why are we comparing it with that?
Councillor Timuramfel, perhaps I can just hopefully answer this on behalf of the Mayor. The Mayor had meetings with the Chamber, and I'm not sure if you recall, but they've also presented to the councils and to the business community their vision for Rotorua. One of the things that they had said is that if we wanted to adopt or use part of their vision, and so this was just an opportunity to try and capture the feedback that we'd received from the Chamber around the vision that they saw for the district. So it wasn't necessarily that we needed to adopt it, but we were just trying to show some similarities between their vision for Rotorua, our vision, and the Te Aroha 2050 vision, where there may have been alignment or similarities, or where there wasn't, and they were pieces of work that each of the organisations was doing.
Yeah. So is there a reason why we've specifically chosen the Chamber of Commerce? Because I think about all the organisations that have presented their aspirations to us, which are many, including our own, RNZ. So is there a reason why we would use their economic outcomes over RNZ's or over another organisation? Or I'm just trying to figure out why
I don't think we're using their economic outcomes. This was the Chamber's vision.
Yeah, well, their vision, which thriving business environment is an economic outcome as part of their vision, for example. Make it low risk and easy to invest as an economic outcome as part of their vision. So the question is why are we using the Chamber of Commerce other than the fact that they've just presented to us? But if we use that, I suppose, that logic of thinking, then we'd have 30 or 40 different comparisons in terms of visions and outcomes.
So we're not. So this was a piece of work. This is our piece of work. All the staff have done is have taken two pieces of work that have already been done in the community around a vision for the community, and they've just gone and tried to show where there are similarities or alignment or not to the piece of work that we're about to do or trying to do now.
Okay, so
remembering there's still an opportunity for further feedback from the community. Yeah,
okay. So basically for that particular point, we've just chosen it at random because they've done some stuff in the economic development space. And so we've just chosen that because they've presented to us, and it's just a vision out there in the community. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, as I understand it, this is a vision that's been presented by the business community, represented by the Chamber of Commerce. Yeah. And so Her Worship has asked that this be included as just a piece of work that has currently been done in the community to just work alongside the work that we're doing to help inform it. But we don't need to start from a clean sheet of paper. A lot of this work has already been done, like we've got the 2050 vision, we've got the Chamber of Commerce vision, but this is our opportunity to shape our outcomes in our long-term plan.
Okay, so I suppose why I raise this is my concern is that we've got the council outcomes there, and what I understand from the way that it's being presented to us is that it's to say that our outcomes are in alignment with what the Chamber is thinking in terms of their vision, is what I'm understanding from the way that this is presented to us. So if that is the case, I suppose that we're trying to say that we're on the right track. Why wouldn't we use our economic development agency as the comparison, is my question. Because the Chamber of Commerce, because I suppose for me, I don't know what bias exists within the Chamber, or I don't know what other things have influenced the way that their vision is formed or anything like that. And so, Yeah, it's just, I suppose it's when we are comparing our outcomes with the vision or outcomes of an entity, it's in ensuring that there is alignment with what we're trying to achieve, but we don't necessarily have that with the Chamber. Does that make sense? So, for example, I would prefer if we compared it to the economic development strategy of RNZ, because we know that there is alignment there.
So RNZ is our CCO, so we set the direction for RNZ through our SOI and our LOE.
Yes, I'm aware of that.
So I'm just not sure. So they don't have a vision as such. They are required to deliver to our priorities.
They should have a vision, and I'm sure we've seen that they've got a vision.
So I'm just not sure how this fits into this piece of work when what we do feeds into them rather than round them the other way.
So we're talking about economy and community, and you're not sure that the Economic Development Agency that we fund as a council, how they fit into our economic outcomes.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we're the ones that sets the vision and the priorities. They're our CCO. They also have a separate set of outcomes and things that they need to deliver under their SOI.
Yeah.
Part of it is to deliver to council's priorities.
Yes.
So I'm just not sure why there's a disconnect there.
I suppose that's the question, is because I'm not seeing. So we're here, we're talking about economy, we're talking about community. There's a clear understanding in my head as to why we're comparing our council outcomes that we're proposing against the Te Aroha 2050 vision, because we have a strategic relationship and agreement, partnership arrangement with Te Tatau Te Aroha. The Chamber of Commerce vision, there's no strategic alignment in terms of our relationship with the Chamber of Commerce. So why would they be the authority on which we evidence alignment economically? I would think that it would be the Economic Development Agency that we would want to reinforce our outcomes with. Do you sort of see where I'm thinking?
Yes and no, and I think it would be, I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to answer the question to the level of detail that you want. I think that's a discussion you'll need to take offline with the Mayor as to why, but I think I'm just not sure that I'm capturing what you want us to do, what you're trying to suggest here. I don't know if anyone else has any further comments. Councillor Barker?
My only thoughts, excuse me, is that this is our day, the council outcomes are ours, and I think it's helpful to have the view of people and organisations that we work alongside and try and have relationships with, regardless of what those relationships are. And the Mayor obviously sees some, I only can't speak on behalf of the Mayor, but I assume that she sees some value in actually just seeing whether there is some alignment. But our key priority is to set our vision. It's just helpful to be referencing ourselves against others. And this is just an attempt to do that. I imagine there are other organisations that, we could do the same with. So, I don't think it's opposing sort of situation. It's actually just checking in with our community and our business community as well. So that's just my view.
Councillor Patterson?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My understanding of this process is that these will eventually become the lens through which pretty much everything we do for the next 10 years, according to the LTP, will be focused. So if it doesn't meet any of these outcomes that we set, then it doesn't happen. Is that correct?
Councillor, yes, in broad terms, that is correct.
Excellent.
We use this as the pillars of the LTP, of which we do other pieces of work in alignment to these outcomes.
That's what I thought. So what I'm concerned about is we don't mention enough specifics. For example, let's take as example this one. I had done, as Greg mentioned, some wordsmithing. Rotorua has reliable, resilient and growth-enabling infrastructure delivered on time and within budget, and then getting that specificity alongside a protected and enhanced natural environment supporting housing, economic development and strong urban and rural communities. By that, what I'm trying to do is say this is what we're actually aiming for, because sometimes we can be a bit broad in what we're stating, and we could end up doing something that isn't actually what we want to achieve unless we're more specific. That's just my feedback.
Yeah, we'll take that on board, and it's a bit of a balancing act too, because on the other side, you do want to have it broad enough to enable decisions that come later in the long-term plan to be done. So, that's a rock and a hard place, isn't it? That sometimes if you get too narrow and then something comes through the long-term plan and all of you say, this is something that we really should do, and we've made it so specific that we can't do it, then it makes it a little bit hard. So we'll take on board those comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And we all know that we do this every 3 years.
Yeah.
It's not 10 years,
No.
so it can be changed. Thank you.
Focus on the 10.
Back with you, Greg or Sam, on outcome 3.
So you were comfortable. We'll jump to outcome 3. So outcome 3 is around financial sustainability. So based on the feedback through those workshops, what it's come up to is prudent financial management, focus on core service delivery, alternative revenue sources, and debt reduction. And like we talked about probably at the top of the meeting, the focus of that will then flow through to things like our level of service reviews and user fees and charges, which will then have the corresponding measures that we do alongside that. But if this is one of the high level outcomes, then we can just feed into that. And then it's the statement below, but I'm sure that you're capable of reading.
Any questions? Councillor Patterson?
Again, I'd put some thought into this one as a slightly more compressed version of the last one I gave you. Rotorua is financially sustainable through prudent financial management, strategic partnerships, alternative revenue sources, and investment that supports long-term growth. Just a suggestion.
Thank you. Any other comments? No?
Madam Chair, just one comment from me, just following up on Councillor Patterson's comment there. It'd be good to have, in my opinion, something around partnerships and the opportunities that they bring.
Councillor Timmer-Benfell?
Does the wording "a strong focus on core service delivery," does that, I suppose, what impact does that have in terms of some of the councillors around the table have talked about that there's sort of a need for more community-centric language and more things like that? For me, a strong focus on core service delivery sends a particular signal. Is there a way that the staff can sort of wordsmith that to sort of reflect some of the other feedback that's been given around community? And I suppose with core service delivery, is that in terms of what is a core service, is that identified by us as a council, or is that set by central government, or is that who sets what a core service actually is?
There's probably a combination of both, but through the long-term planning process, if this was one of the outcomes, then you would decide how you want that to be set.
Okay. I just think if we put in a strong focus of core service delivery, it's not in lieu of pipes over people, is I suppose what the feedback is on that particular thing.
Not necessarily sure we're going that far that we're favouring pipes over people. I think that part of this was around the proposed direction with potential rates capping and with potential definitions around what would fit in under that rates capping definition as services that should be provided. So these are still up for discussion, but I think that's where that came from in our discussions when we had out at the airport and in previous discussions that we've had, is that I think the government was looking to define what would be potentially core services in legislation.
Yeah, and I suppose that's probably my concern, because their idea of core service could be quite different to what our idea of a core service is. And I suppose that's why, in terms of a strong focus on core service, whoever is setting what a core service is, if there is that terminology inside our LTP around that very strong focus, it's just, I suppose some of the wording, but it's not, in lieu of whatever else is going on in terms of our aspirations for our community. I think
we'll capture that, I think, as some feedback. I think it's coming. Okay, any other questions? Otherwise, I think that pretty... Greg and Sam, did you have any other further comments that you wish to make on?
I think with regards to this one, Madam Chair, we'll take on board the feedback that has been given around this one and take that one on board. And then happy to take any other questions regarding to community outcomes, if you have any.
I think David wanted to add his 2 cents as well.
David, do you want to come up?
Sorry, not trying to drag the workshop out longer than needed, but I thought it was important just to draw a really strong connection between this particular outcome and some decisions we will need from you very early in the LTP with our financial strategy. So as part of the financial strategy, as a council, we will need to adopt some rules for how the level that we will set for rates increases, the level that we will set for our debt headroom, and how much debt we will have, how much of our revenue will come from rates as opposed to from other sources, how much capital investment we will have, and the makeup on whether that is purely renewal or level of service or growth. And getting clarity on that will enable the organisation to deliver something that you are happy with when we come to adoption time. So just seeking just reinforcing that this is this outcome will have some really practical decisions that we'll need from you quite early on.
Thank you for that reminder, David. Any further questions? Otherwise, Councillor Patterson.
Just some comments, if I may, Madam Chair. So we have our central government going on about going for growth. We have the future development strategy. We have our infrastructure strategy. We have our events strategy. And yet here, I don't see the word growth anywhere in any of our outcomes. So, we shouldn't be, this is again just my opinion, we shouldn't just be about maintaining services. Rotorua should be we're trying to flourish, what I understand. This is our opportunity to lead our city into a positive growth mode. So whether that be the economy, infrastructure, financial sustainability, growth should be a recurring theme throughout. Growth doesn't necessarily just mean building more houses or intensification or anything like that. So if we can somehow incorporate growth into our outcomes as a positive outcome, whether that be enabling infrastructure, housing where services already exist, diversified economy, environmental stewardship, all of those things, alternative revenue sources, we want to have a much stronger position going into the future, and I think growth is a key part of that. It should be entwined somewhere.
Okay, Councillor Tamara Benfeld.
This comment is more just a minor comment, just around, I suppose, the way that we're structuring some of these vision statements. If staff can just have a bit of a play around, because I'm just reading through, and linguistically, economic development in every single aspect of this comes before any social aspect. economic comes before any environmental aspect. And so if we can, through some of these, is have more of a balance, so that when our community is reading through these documents and the first thing that they're reading is not always economic, financial, prudence, da-da-da-da-da, and then after on 3 sentences down, we might think about you later. So it's just, and it's the same, it's infrastructure, maintenance, and then it's environment. So if we can just have a bit of a play around with, not all the time, I'm not saying that it has to be all favoured in this way or that way, but in the balance of how we, even the way what we present first. It doesn't make much of a difference in terms of what we're doing, but in the way that it's perceived by the community, it has a better balance. So yeah, I'm just thinking linguistically, I'm reading, it's strategic development, strategic economic development before quality of life. It's infrastructure before environment. It's prudence, financial management, and service delivery before anything else. You know, it's just yeah, and it's constant through the whole paper. So yeah, if we can have a play around with mixing that up and restoring some of that balance would be good.
Okay, thank you very much, councillors. Councillor Barker.
Just a question, Chair, around the process that David just mentioned and the timing of that, because I think once we start talking about what's core, what's not, what our financial strategy is going to be, this is going to actually clarify to some extent the capacity that this organisation has to do certain things. So I'm just interested in the timing of that particular piece of work, if someone could answer that, please.
I can answer some of it probably on behalf of David, and maybe he might have to jump in. With regards to at least providing an accurate picture to council, what at least a good starting point for us would be with regards to the financials. Obviously, the underlying significant forecasting assumptions are critical to that. We only get some of those in sort of September, which is around our inflationary numbers or forecasts, our interest numbers, our borrowing, cost of borrowing, and all that kind of stuff. So we're probably looking, and I'm looking at David, we're probably looking sort of September, October, before we are able to provide at least a starting point picture to council once we have those core underlying assumptions. Now, we do have some workshops coming up. One of them will be around our significant forecasting assumptions, where you would be able to provide feedback on what has come through in that space, but that would have to happen before we can provide you a financial picture.
Thank you. And secondary also is the systems improvement bill that the government's putting through. Do we have any timing on that? I'm not cognizant of when it's due to come before House.
It's supposed to be before the House rises for the election, but most of the stuff's going through under urgency at the moment, so you don't really get a good sense of how quickly that's going to come. So they were proposing that it was supposed to be May, but it's been and gone, so June. But usually on a Friday we get a good update, so I'll have a deeper look then and I can come back to you on that.
Sorry, just to add to that, we're watching it daily because there's a number of items that are affected in front of this council that have come through that bill, and so it's sitting there, and every day we watch it, it doesn't quite make it, and so we're expecting it really, really soon.
Thank you. Because just aware that there's those two things that are really key parts of putting together our long-term plan, and it's quite challenging to have discussions like this when we don't have all that information in place yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barker. And I think that just brings us back to our very first workshop, when we talked about the context in which we're trying to deliver this LTP. I think the slide there was, this is not a normal LTP, and we've got Head Start, simplifying local government, we've got potentially rates capping, we've got the ring fencing of local waters done well and the debt that's associated with that, the geopolitical uncertainty, and of course we've still got some issues around forecasting and inflation, the fuel increases that we're having to absorb at the moment, and then also we will be talking further about the historical renewal underspend and what we're going to do about trying to address some of those issues. So there are going to have to be some difficult discussions coming up where we have to look very hard at what we can prioritise within the budgets that we do have available to us. And so this will just, as I said, be a complex piece of work. But can I thank you all today for the feedback that you've given? I know that staff have taken some notes, as have I. I will feed some of this back to to the Mayor, as I'm sure that you will too. Staff will take on board the comments that have been made, and some of the comments will be captured as we move through this piece of work. We do have other workshops scheduled, so there are more opportunities to delve into some of these things in more detail. At the moment, this was just a very high-level workshop to try and work out what the outcomes are for the long-term plan. So, Councillor.
Just a question with regards to the comments and feedback that's been provided by councillors around the table today. When can we expect to see a new draft of incorporating those comments?
I think I'll leave that with the Mayor, and the Mayor can work with the staff as to what timeline she wants to work to. I know we've got some other workshop slots still coming, but I'm probably not in a position, I'm not sure if the staff are to give you a definitive date or workshop that it will be coming to at this stage.
Have we scheduled the next Wednesday next workshops scheduled?
I think just off the top of my head, the next workshop is the 8th of July. So we would want to make sure, without giving you an exact date, Councillor, we would want to make sure that whatever changes are made based on today's comments are well circulated with yourselves before we even bring a paper to the Council in July, so that we don't end up having a rehash of this conversation at the Council table for a decision. And so we want to make sure that all of that is captured and well shared with you in advance of that.
And this is probably, for a bit of context, unlike a usual paper, which is probably a staff recommendation where we take on board your feedback and then ultimately, present something that's a mixture of what we want and what you want. This is led by council, so it'll be, I guess, an ongoing piece of work that you'll all work together on, that we'll provide support in. So it's probably slightly different, so the timeframes will be a little bit different in that space.
Okay. Your Worship, I can just see that you've just joined us online. We're about to wrap up here, but I wondered if you just wanted to make some final comments. What we've done is we've gone through the 3 outcome areas. Some feedback has been provided through the workshop, and I just wanted to know if you wanted to make any final comments before we close the session today.
Oh, kia ora everyone, just apologies, we've been at the Tangi for Ken Roti, but also just wanted to note that these will be adopted from a final council decision as well, and that I do hope that before then to also at least extend this to our community boards to also provide any feedback that may come through there as well, just to ensure that it's reflective of our whole community. But look, thank you very much everyone. I know that there's been a lot of work to reach this point, in particular with brainstorm sessions with the councillors on what's important over 10 years. And thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, for chairing this today. I do at some stage want to find how to meet the requests of our Māori ward councillors, in particular on the Treaty of Waitangi, and how that we include that in a way that's also reflected in how we can practically deliver it as well. So that's all, but thank you very much everyone. My apologies for not being there in person.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Councillors, that will bring this session to a close today. So, Councillor Maxwell, will you also close us with a karakia, please?
E ino I tātou, kia taua whai o tō tātou ariki haiti, pe te aroha o te atua me te whiwhinga tahitanga ki te wairua tapu aia nei ake tonu atu. Amen. May the grace of God and the fellowship of the Holy Spirit be with us now and evermore. Amen.
Thank you very much, Councillor Maxwell, and that's the close of the workshop. Thank you, councillors.